under Mulimi Apunzile, farming as a business. And today we are looking at pepper production, and specifically we look at pest and disease management in the crop called pepper. So pepper is a general term for crops that fall under pepper. We have sweet pepper, we have chili, we also have red peppers, green peppers, and yellow peppers. So the management is basically the same. So allow me to take you through. So to start with, we need to look at what is a pest before we talk about pest management. We need to know what are we talking about to start with. So we'll look at what is a pest. And a pest in this case is any animal or plant which has harmful effect on humans, their food, or their living conditions. So anything that tampers with the well-being of the food condition or the human being, then that thing is called a pest. So this one will take us into looking into an aspect of a pesticide. So what is a pesticide? A pesticide is any substance or mixture of substances intended for preventing, destroying, repairing, or mitigating any pest. So when we have a pest in our field and we buy a certain chemical to correct the situation in the field, the chemical that we are going to use is called a pesticide. So a pest is not just an insect in this regard. It can also be a disease. It can also be a weed in the field. And a weed in this regard can be any crop that we haven't planted is regarded as a pest as well. So it has to be dealt with in that case also. So when you buy a weed killer to go and control the weeds in the field, it's a pesticide. So that's what it means. Then this takes us to another aspect of the outline of our training today. So we'll start looking at why control and manage pests and diseases in our fields. Then crop scouting. Then we'll look at common pests in peppers. Then common diseases in peppers. Different control methods that can be used to tackle any pest that we find in peppers. Then different control measures. Then also choosing pest control methods, because there are different control methods that we can use. So it depends on the situation in the field and what pest you have, and the threshold, of course, of the pest in the field. So we also look at the pre-harvest interval and also observing safety measures, then disposal of chemical containers, then cleaning applicators, the PPE, and self, meaning the person that is handling. Why control pests or diseases? Number one is they cause damage to a crop. You as a farmer, when you are growing a crop, your intention or what you are looking after is to get profit from that crop that you are doing. But the pest comes in to disturb your intentions. So the pest, when it invades the field, the intentions is to feed from that field, but in the end, it also destroys, it damages the crop by bringing deformities and other things that come when the crop is attacked by the pests, as well as getting nutrients which are supposed to go to the plant. Then pests also, apart from feeding from the crop, they also transmit diseases. For instance, the insects that are found on the crop, they can also act as vectors. They can act as agents for transmission of different diseases from one crop to the other, from one field to the other, from one farm to the other. So there's need, therefore, to control the pests and the diseases. And this invasion of pests in your crop will eventually bring about low yields in your crop. For instance, when we talk of insects, when the insects invade your crop, of course, there are different kinds of insects. Others will chew the leaves, meaning that they will reduce the surface area of the leaves. So there will be little food being manufactured by the crop. Then others are sucking insects. Some sucking insects, what they do, they suck the sap, the green sap from the leaves. And once they suck the green sap, then there's a little chlorophyll that is supposed to be used to manufacture starch for the growth, for the sustenance of the crop, as well as for production of fruits. So that eventually reduces the yield for your crop. Then also, insects and diseases also bring about poor quality of crop. So once your crop is invaded by pests, any pest, the quality of your vegetables or your crop is drastically affected. Remember that when you go to the market, it's the first, people look at first the availability of what they want to buy on the market. Then the next thing they'll choose, the quality. So if you are 2 of you or 3 of you at the market selling peppers, the one with the high quality with high quality of fruits in terms of peppers will be able to be the first to sell, and the rest will sell at the end of it. And even the price will be different. The one with the high quality fruits will sell at a higher price than the rest. So it's important that we maintain our quality by controlling the insects and the diseases in our field. Then the invasion of insects and diseases, as well as other pests, will also result into low income, just as I was indicating in the first place, that when you take your crop on the market, people first go for the high quality, and they'll be able to pay for anything because of the quality. But somebody who has a lower quality of whatever produce they have taken to the market will be able to sell at the end, but also at a lower price. So one tends to lose on the income. They will get lower income than expected. So one most important activity that one is supposed to carry on a daily basis at the farm is what we call scouting. So scouting is basically going into the field to check on the status of the crop, to check on what is prevailing in the field. So what do we check? We check on the pests. In this case, we check on what insects are present in the field, what diseases are present in the field. Is there weed, or is free from weeds? Then we also check on the water levels in terms of irrigation. Is the crop well irrigated? Then we also check on the nutrition levels of the crop. We need to see to it that the crop is getting the right nutrition, and hence it will end up giving us the right production. So scouting is very important. And why scouting? Scouting, it will give you the clear picture of the status of the crop each and every day. Then it will also give you an early warning. If at all you discover something as you are doing your scouting on that particular day, it will give you an early indication of what is present in the field. And it will also help you make a better decision in terms of the solution that you're supposed to bring pertaining to what you have found in the field. So the earlier, the better. Now, this scouting also helps you to identify the type of pest and disease present. So sometimes we may be fighting a fight that we are not winning because we don't know what we are fighting. So when you do your scouting, you'll be able to know what type of disease or what type of pests or what type of nutrition deficiencies are present in the field, or what type of weeds are there, and that will give you an indication of what is present, and also that will trigger into you finding a solution of what you're supposed to do to correct the situation that's prevailing in the field at that particular time. Then also it will help you know what type of chemical you require. For instance, if there's a chewing pest, a chewing insect in your field, you can't get a chemical that deals with a sucking insect. Then the results may not be good. So once you identify this is a chewing insect, then you have to check what chemical can work on this particular insect. Then you'll be able to make a right decision in the end. Now, coming to common insects that we find in the papers. Number one, we have leaf miner. Leaf miner, these attack the leaves of the plant. And the first sign that you can know that here there's an attack for leaf miner, you may not be able to see the leaf miner itself, but you just see the symptoms. And the symptoms are the markings like a map on the leaf. That's what on the upper surface of the leaf. And once you see this kind of symptom, then you conclude this is a leaf miner. And it's treatable, it's controllable, and you can use, among other chemicals, you can use cyromazine at a rate of 40 grams per 20 liters of water. And this problem will be handled very well. The other common pest that we look at is mealybug. The mealybugs are very small, soft-bodied, oval-shaped insect that are covered with a white powdery wax coating. So if you are not careful, you may mistake it for some diseases like powdery mildew. But you need to identify this insect. Once you know it, then you'll be able to do a correct measures that are supposed to be done. Then in addition, many mealybug species have projections extending from their bodies, giving them the appearance of having many legs. So sometimes you may mistaken this extension from the body of a mealybug like it's other legs of this same insect. This is how it appears. These protrude from the sides of the body of the mealybug, and also on the rear part of it. Then when seen on plants, they look like very small spots of cotton. So sometimes if you're not very careful, you may think it's just something that has fallen on the leaves and not knowing that it's an insect. And with time, you find that the leaves will start changing the color. There will be discoloration on the leaves because it will suck the sap of the leaf with time. So this should not worry you. The solution is there in terms of control. You can use melon at a rate of 10 grams at 20 liters of water. The other pest or insect that we look at is the red spider mite. This red spider mite mostly is found under the leaves of the plants. They appear like small ticks, reddy in color. They damage the leaves by sucking water from the leaves. So sometimes at an early stage, you may not be able to know that there's an invasion of red spider mite in your crop. But the most vivid sign that you can see at the beginning is the cobwebs on the leaves. And mostly underneath, on the bottom of the leaf, you find that there are cobwebs. And the cobwebs, this is one one mechanism that the insect uses to protect itself from the chemicals. But as time goes on, you'll be able to see also the leaf, the upper part of the leaf, having white small dots. That is after they have sucked the sap, then the leaf remains with white dots, small dots on the upper part of the leaf. But again, when you look very carefully underneath, you find that there are red small spiders. And for this one, we have the control, which is ivermectin, among others. The others are kali, the chemicals are Persec. So there's quite a range of chemicals that you can use to control this one. But all the aspect of the cobweb that it forms around themselves to protect themselves from any pesticide. This is why we emphasize every time that when you're doing your mixing of chemicals, remember to add buffer on your chemicals. And buffer, it should be the first product that you add in the water before you add the chemicals. Because among other things, the buffer will help the penetration of the chemical actives into the plant system. Then also buffer will help to spread the chemical actives on the leaves so that the whole leaf is covered with the chemicals. And again, the other pest that we look at is the aphids. These are small tiny insects, green and gray sometimes in color. Usually they are found on the leaves and or growing tips of the plants. And they are found in larger numbers. So sometimes, mostly they are underneath, but sometimes they are also on top of the leaf. These are very tiny insects, but green and gray sometimes in color, and they can be a nuisance in the sense that apart from sucking the water and the sap, the green sap from the leaves, they can also transmit diseases at a rapid rate. So this can be controllable by using, among other chemicals, golan, which is simply acetamiprid, 20% SC, at a rate of 30 mils in 20 liters of water. The other pest or insect that you can find in the peppers is one unique pest, which is a soil-borne insect called nematode. Nematode is a very small worm found in the soil, and it attacks the root system of the plant. And in the end, when the root is attacked, it forms some nodule-like structures within the roots. So this insect, you cannot be able to see it, maybe unless under a microscope. But the most vivid symptom that you'll be able to notice when the crop is under attack is the nodule-like structures that you found on the roots. So the first sign you see will be the wilting up there on the plant. The plant will start wilting from nowhere, and also the stem will look like it doesn't get enough water, even when you give it enough water. So when you see such signs, of course, the stem won't change the color in a while, but what you do is you have to uproot the plant and be able to check on the roots. If you see there are some nodule-like structures, the ones that you find like on beans and groundnuts, then you can conclude that this is an attack of a nematode. And once you discover that, the control is that you have to drench oxamil in the soil at a rate of 60 mils in 20 liters of water. Then you'll be able to sort out this problem. Another common insect that we look at in pepper management is the cutworms. So they are found in the soil and they attack the plant by cutting the stem just below the ground level. They normally like the tender growing plants. So meaning that at the early stage when the plant has been transplanted, even at the nursery, they can attack. So these insects are sow-borne insect, but they can be controlled. So in case of the nursery, time and again, you need to be applying some Perinex or chlorpyrifos. And also, before you transplant in the main field, you can drench this same chemical in the holes or in the whole field before you transplant. Then by so doing, you'll be able to avoid this problem. Another insect that we look at is the American bollworm. These are caterpillars that enter the pepper fruit, and it goes to mine all the flesh inside the fruit tissues. So it removes all the fruit tissues inside the fruit, and in the end, the fruit will start rotting. Sometimes you can mistaken it by a rot disease, but meanwhile, it's American bollworm, which has mined the inner flesh and thereby leaving the outer part of the fruit weak and start rotting. So we have a solution for this kind of an insect. You can use it among other chemicals, Blast Super at the rate of 30 mils per 20 liters, or Windstorm at the rate of 10 grams per 20 liters of water. It's quite a nuisance. It can reduce your yields, thereby affecting even your income, and also the quality of fruits is compromised. So we've talked about the common insects that we can find in peppers, but allow me now to take you through the common diseases that are found in peppers. So to start with, we look at the early blight. Early blight, this disease attacks the leaves, starting with the bottom leaves, appearing as large brown spots. So this attacks mostly the small plants at the beginning of their growth, and it can really cause havoc to the crop if left unattended to. But we have a solution in terms of the control, which is Orias. We can use Orias. Orias is simply tebuconazole at the rate of 15 mils in 20 liters of water. The other disease is called late blight. This also attacks the leaves, appearing as small brown spots, big sometimes, and brown regions can also appear on the stems, just as you are able to see from the pictures that have been given there. So late blight can be controlled by chemicals like Victory, which is a combination of metalaxyl plus mancozeb. Then we can also use dimethomorph to control the late blight. Then you can also use Othelotop, which is a combination of difenoconazole plus azoxstrobin. So with those chemicals in place, you'll be able to control the late blight. The other disease that we look at is called rust. So mostly it is found underside of the leaves and appears in form of grayish to brown powder-like structures. So this, if left unattended to, may even end up drying the whole leaves. And once the leaves are dry, then there's no life on that crop. So this should not worry farmers out there, because solutions are there. You can simply use Folica. Folica is another name for Orias, which has got an active ingredient of tebuconazole. So you can use Orias to control rust at a rate of 15 mils per 20 liters of water. The other disease that we look at is called powdery mildew, which is so common in peppers, especially in humid conditions. You have this problem even in the greenhouses if you don't have controlled controlled measures in terms of temperature, you have this problem of powder mildew. So this appears like white powder on the leaves, and sometimes it can be seen on the stem as well. Sometimes you may feel maybe somebody has poured white powder or anything on the crop, but meanwhile it's a disease. At the early stage, you may not be able to notice the effect that it has on the crop, but as time goes on, the leaves will start turning brown into drying. So when the leaves have dried up, then there's no food being manufactured for the crop to be sustained, as well as for growth, as well as for productivity of the fruits. So the control for this kind of disease is benomil. The other trade name is match. Then you'll be able to control this disease. The other disease we look at is bacterial leaf spot. Bacterial leaf spot. So this is a bacterial disease, just hearing it even from the name. So this can attack the leaves, and the spots are small, brown and black in color, and can appear on all the leaves of the plant from top to bottom. So normally, the best way to tackle bacterial diseases is to go preventive way. And within the chemicals that can be used, we have funguran, which can be used at a rate of 40 grams per 20 liters of water. Then the same funguran also is stocked in a liquid form. We call it COP 180, and that one can be used at a rate of 35 mils in 10 liters of water. Then the other chemical that can be used is called Kobe. Kobe can be used at a rate of 40 mils in 20 liters of water. Then you can as well bring in a combination of mancozeb plus phosphite, which has an effect of curtailing the spread of the disease. So once you mix mancozeb and phosphite, you'll be able to curtail the spread of the disease. So meaning that those new leaves that are not affected cannot be affected by applying the same. And that effect is also found in Kobe. So with those, you'll be able to control this disease. The other problem that you find in peppers is called sun scate. This is an injury to the leaves. It causes an injury to the leaves, to the bark, or underlying tissues of the wood plants, and also the fruits themselves. You find that the cuticle part of the fruit, which is the outer part of the fruit, will get burnt in a way. And this is caused mostly by intense heat or high humidity or high sunshine. Intensive sunshine may cause this problem. So how do we handle this problem? The best way to handle this problem is to go preventive way. So you make sure that you grow this crop in cool seasons. That's number one. Number two, you need to give this crop enough moisture and enough fertilizers. And within the fertilizers, you need to make sure that you administer fertilizers that also contains calcium, such as Cowgrow, which is a foliar spraying fertilizer. Then you also need to make sure that within your fertilizers, you also have fertilizers that contains potassium, because potassium will be able to strengthen the cuticle part of the fruit, hence reducing the effect of sun scate. Control measures. What methods can we use to control these pests that we've talked about? One way of controlling these pests is the physical way, where when you look at the threshold, if there are few pests that are found in the field at that particular time, you can go in with your hands and be able to remove those pests and be able to throw them or dig dig a pit somewhere and be able to bury them so that they don't go back to the field. And normally this is done at the west part of the field, the western part of the field, where the wind blows to, so that we make sure that the whatever pest we've removed from the field is not coming back into the field. The other way is the mechanical way of doing it, where you use some implements to remove these pests. Then the other way that we use mostly is the chemical way, where when you identify the pest, you'll be able to search what chemical you can use and go in and spray against that pest. Then choosing the best control measures. There are things that we look at for you to come up with the best way of controlling the pest in your field. So this depends on, number one, the type of pest, the type of insect, the type of disease, the type of weeds that you have. So once you know the type of pest that you have, then you to be able to trigger in your mind what kind of pesticide you're supposed to use. Then also the stage of the crop. For instance, when you just transplanted your peppers, it would be quite risky to go in with a hoe to remove those weeds if you are going mechanical way. So you can either go physical way, or you can use some forks, garden forks, the small one, to remove those weeds. So the stage of the crop will also indicate what type of control measures or control method you can use in your field. Then the type of applicator, just like I've said, it will, for in terms of maybe weeds, when the crop is small, you do want to use either your hands, or you can use the small garden forks to remove those weeds. Then also type of PPE. So depending on the pest that you have identified in the field, you'll be able to know what kind of control methods you're going to use. For instance, if you're going to spray, then it will entail you need to put on a certain kind of PPE, which is personal protective equipment. So if, let's say, you are spraying an insecticide or a fungicide or herbicide, it means you need to put on a full PPE, whereby you need to cover your head with a helmet, you need to put on the goggles, the respirators, the work suit, and the gumboots. And maybe on the gumboots and the trousers that we put on, I can say something in terms of how you wear it or you put it on. Most people, I see farmers putting their trousers or the bottom part of their work suit into the gumboots. It's supposed to be the other way. The gumboots are supposed to go inside the trousers, so that in case of some spillages, as we are applying those chemicals, the chemicals should not go into the gumboots, but they should just spill over onto the ground. So that's how you put on in terms of the gumboots and the bottom of the work suit. Then also the type of method, or rather the method that you can use in terms of controlling whatever you found in the field will also depend on the type of labor. Is it skilled labor? Is it just common labor? So those are the things that you have to consider. Then talking on the pre-harvest interval, this is a very important aspect which you're supposed to practice in terms of the crop that we are harvesting. So PHI, or pre-harvest interval, is simply the number of days that one has to wait from the day you apply a certain pesticide to the day when it is safe for you and me to eat that crop. So when we are handling a pesticide on the crop that we are harvesting, we need to look at the label. On the label, they always indicate. If it's not on the label, then the chemical comes with a leaflet. So either on the label or on the leaflet, they'll be able to indicate crop, and also the PHI, the number of days that you're supposed to wait after applying that same pesticide. So it's very, very important that we observe these. And these are some of the things that also they follow through in terms of when you are supplying your crop, your harvest to some chain stores. They would want you to follow through this aspect of the PHI, which is one of the safety measures that they undertake. Then observing safety measures, ensure that there's safety whenever you're measuring the chemicals. So before you start measuring your chemicals, you have to be in a PPI, personal protective equipment. Then also you need not to stand against the wind direction, but you need to go to stand the wind direction, so that in case there's a blow of the wind, the chemical doesn't spill to you, especially the powder ones. Then mixing chemicals, you need to make sure that you avoid some spillages every time you're mixing your chemicals, because the spillages may affect you as a person. So you make sure that you avoid spillages whenever you are mixing your chemicals, and also stand on the wind direction, not against the wind. Then spraying, also it's very, very important that you also follow through the wind direction, and also avoid spraying when there's too much wind. So when there's moderate wind, you still need to make sure that you go the wind direction. So if I'm spraying from the east going to the west, I should maintain that one. When I go at the end of that particular line which I'm spraying, or that particular leaf that I'm spraying, or bed that I'm spraying, I need just to walk through again back to where I started from, so that I avoid contaminating myself even as I'm spraying. Then things that we need to observe when mixing the chemicals, when spraying, we need to avoid eating. No eating during spraying, no eating during mixing of chemicals as well. Then we should also avoid smoking. Then we should not spray against the wind direction. Disposal of chemical containers. First of all, once we are done with the chemical that we are using, we need to clean the empty containers of that chemical 4 times. And not just that, we need also to make sure that we puncture the containers so that they are not reused by someone for any other intended use. Then also find a suitable disposing site away from the people and away from animals. So after cleaning, you puncture, and if you have identified a place within the farm where you're supposed to dump these things, then it has to be away from the animals' reach and away from people's reach. Others in their farms have gone a step forward by having built some accelerators where you are able to burn the same empty containers, so that there's no contamination, whether by animals or by people. Then cleaning, whenever we are done with any operation, if we are using an applicator, we need to clean that applicator at the end of the operations. Then also we need to clean the PPE equipment, the personal protective equipment. After spraying, we need to make sure that we clean those equipment, and also we need to clean ourselves, take a bath, a fresh bath, so that if at all those some contamination here and there, it will not have an effect on us. There are some chemicals that can penetrate even in the skin of a person, of a human being. So we make sure that before that it happens in case there was a contamination, we wash thoroughly with the soap so that we are safe. With this, I want to say thank you for attending our training, and it is my hope and faith that we've learned something that will help us going forward to be able to manage our crop effective and in a better way so that we can maximize the profit in our farming business. Thank you very much.